And I'm going to focus mostly on the charter amendment. What we're really considering is an ordinance about putting something on the ballot. So with the understanding is that this is a charter change that I'm proposing that we put on the ballot. It has to do with the oversight of the police department. There's a few general reasons why I'm trying to do this. One is to increase our transparency, actually our effectiveness and the accountability, and how we oversee the police department, bring it closer to civilian oversight, because we're adding the elected officials to represent all the citizens. Also, putting the department on common footing with all the other departments in the city, so that it's, I think, will make it simpler for people to understand this is how changes in policies get set at the city. I think it will help us build better relations with police and police with the communities, and allow the citizens of Minneapolis to have more confidence and trust in the police. And ultimately, I believe that this is a pathway so that our police officers will be safer and healthier. We can be more fully engaged in making sure that they have a good work environment, and also that our communities are safer, and it will enhance public safety. This is all about the charter, and there's a lot of words and there's a lot of minutia. This focuses in on Article 7. Specifically, it starts with 7.2. Article 7 is all about the administration in the charter. The 7.1 is about the mayor. There's nothing mentioned in that section about the police department. But in 7.2, it mentions all the departments. And it says that the city council must establish and organize and otherwise provide for these departments. And there's a long list. And you'll notice there that the 11th one is the police department. So obviously the city council has a role to play. Interestingly enough, there's not subsections on all of these departments. There's only subsections on the civil rights department, the planning commission, the fire department, and the police department. The change I want to make focuses on the police department in this particular paragraph. Unlike any other of those departments that are or are not listed, this includes a special section in the charter that gives the mayor complete power over the establishment, maintenance, and command of the police department. Even though the city council is required to establish and organize them, the mayor has complete power over that establishment, maintenance, and command of the police department, and may make all the rules and regulations and may promulgate and enforce general and special orders necessary to operating the police department. This is the clause that has come up again and again when I've been interested in my 12 years on the council of making certain changes, most remarkably in 2006 when we were trying to look at the taser policy when they were purchasing tasers. And this is the part that I believe that Assistant Attorney Peter Ginder pointed to. In fact, I know it was when he said that even when the city council makes a staff direction to the police department, really they're making a request because we don't have the authority and the role to do so. And in fact, when the taser policy was ultimately adopted, it wasn't a city council approving it. It wasn't a city policy. It was done through special order by the police chief. In fact, virtually all the policies of the police department are done by special order of the police chief. That's my understanding. What I want to do is actually bring the police department section of the charter more in line with the fire department section of the charter, which you can see side by side before you. My proposal is to eliminate that first paragraph having to do with the mayor having complete power over the establishment and maintenance and command of the department, so that it would start talking about the department and then the police chief and how they're appointed. And it would be in line with the fire department. So if you're wondering, well, how would the oversight be for the police department with this change? I asked people to look at the fire department, and it would be very similar to that, following all those same rules and guidelines. Actually, the charter always hasn't had that in it, interestingly enough. The first charter of the city of Minneapolis had a different scheme for how we would have oversight of the police department. It's there before you if you can see it on the screen or on your screens. It actually created the police department, but it also created a board of police commissioners of the city of Minneapolis. And that board of police commissioners actually had all the powers of the said city connected with incident to the establishment, maintenance, appointment, discipline, and control of its police. You can almost see where they got the 1920 language, can't you? It's in there, but it's about a police commission, which actually, if you read further, this old charter is appointed by the city council and the mayor serves on it. And interestingly enough, in this 1800s charter, I'll just bring that up, in order to be a police officer in the city of Minneapolis, you had to first live in the city for 3 years. So I want to just address a couple common misconceptions, and I don't want to go on too long here. But people have talked about 14 cooks in the kitchen, or a patchwork of ward by ward public safety approaches. The charter currently gives the council and mayor shared authority over other departments. And we certainly don't give council members authority to tell individuals what to do or create special things in their wards. So if that's not the case, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in having 14 of us help work together to set policy for the department, just like we do now. We've also talked about no other major cities. We've heard this. I believe we've read it in the newspaper. Has this kind of a structure. Well, if you just do a little research, you'll find that lots of cities, large cities, have been grappling with this issue for a long time, and they address it in a variety of ways. Many don't vest total control in the mayor, and there's a list there, and those are actually have links provided if you want to research the charters in those cities to see how they do the oversight of the police. Many of them actually have commissions, and many of them actually have the city council in control or sharing control, much as I'm proposing here. And there also people have suggested that maybe there's some kind of hidden agenda that I'm bringing forward. I don't really have a hidden agenda. Of course, a lot of people talk about police reform issues. I'm sure I have in the past about many other things, but really my agenda is changing the process so that it's clearer, it's more accountable and transparent and more effective by having the full city council engaged, just like we're engaged in the other departments. I also want to mention that this isn't some new idea that I was hastily arrived at. This is something that I've been thinking about and talking about since 2006 when I first got on the council and I learned about the structure and the way it was written. And it was kind of surprising to me that this was so unique. I certainly talked about it, written about it, and I believe this is a good approach, and it's time to make this approach. I will confess that when I talked about it with councils in the past, there was less interest than I've heard in the council presently, so that's why it seemed like the right time to bring it forward. I just want to make it clear that even if this is approved by the voters, the mayor will retain a great deal of authority. The mayor will still be able to direct staff as he or she would with any other department. Actually, there's a provision in the charter that gives the mayor the authority to proclaim an emergency. And when he proclaims an emergency, there's emergency regulations that are put in place. He does have to come back in a number of days back to the council to get approval for continuing that, but he can proclaim it right away. There's also a provision in the charter that I'm not proposing amending, which gives the mayor, in the case of a riot or other emergency, the authority to appoint any necessary temporary police officer for up to 1 week. Also, of course, the mayor proposes a budget, and that's where we see a lot of the proposals and programs and how to change the police department is through the budget process, and the mayor can also propose action through the normal council processes. What I'm proposing that the council would gain is policymaking authority to formally adopt changes to police department policy through our formal, normal council actions, including through resolution, staff directions, or ordinances, following our normal processes so that those proposals would be introduced. They go through the committee process just as we do now. And in fact, every action on policy that the council would take would be subject to mayoral veto. And in order to override that veto, it would take a supermajority of the council. We've talked a little bit about the timeline. I just thought it might be useful to put this up for everybody. In order to get something on the ballot this year, the timeline is a little bit tight. So after this committee, it would go directly to the council on August 3rd. And then on August 8th, the Charter Commission has committed to having a meeting. I believe they actually have it on their agenda for tonight as well. But that's a meeting when it could be referred August 3rd to the Charter Commission. They could consider it on the 8th, and I believe that the council president is open to having an adjourned meeting on August 9th if this goes forward, so that then we would have time to also take it up then, and we could approve putting it on the ballot. That would leave enough time for it to go through the rest of the approval process and be printed on the ballot. The ballot deadline for printing is August 24th. I'm happy to take any questions. I think I'll leave my presentation there.